Hi, I'm Hannah Metcalf and I'm running for Vice President of Activities. I have four main aims which I wish to uphold if I was to get the position. That is to support, represent, appreciate and acknowledge all societies throughout the campus. Not only am I going to do this with sporting societies, but also competitive societies who represent the university throughout the year. My main aim is to implement an activities membership which is tailored to each and every single society, so then I can assist them with funding for all the competitions which they go to, concerts or any other activity they do to represent the university. I want to make sure that they are fully represented and acknowledged, to show all the achievements which they do throughout the year and make sure that every single university student knows what they're doing and how well they've been doing throughout the year. Please vote for me. I really want to make sure that all societies get what they deserve. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alex and I'm running to be your next VP Activities. I've been really involved with LUSU activities, mostly through Lou Dance, as I'm the president of the Dance Society currently. This has really been the highlight of my student experience, and I want other students of Lancaster University to feel that same involvement. I want to increase the representation of societies, putting them at the heart of the union, whether it be societies or sports. That's the way most people interact with the union. I really want to increase communication, as I think this is an issue and an area that needs improvement. Communication between the activities team and then also between the activities team and the students themselves. I also want to increase the engagement through things like promoting your society or your sports team, your events and your results. And I also want to do things like partnering with Just Play as an extra way to promote and publicise your society and your activity group. If you could read my full manifesto on my Facebook page, that would be great. And vote Alex #1 for VP Activities.
There is another candidate in every election called RON. RON stands for Reopen Nominations. You don't have to vote for any of the candidates if you don't think they're good enough. Voting RON means reopening up the position for a by-election. Here is why you might want to do that for the role of Vice President Activities. The first candidate has said they will provide our teams with whatever is required to win an away roses next year, so LUSU's financial troubles look set to get worse when a number of international athletes suddenly appear as postgraduate students for the weekend. There is quite a lot of talk about providing whatever they need for different groups in this manifesto, but rather less talk of any actual answers. Another candidate who wants to allow societies to register as a Sports Lancaster club, but I can't see there being a Bucks League for tea appreciation anytime soon, and that's not exactly something we'd like to compete against Yorkshire at Roses with either. They also pledged to re-evaluate the effectiveness of Carter Shield and Legends and establish these sports activities at the same level as Founders and Patriots. But I'm not entirely sure that we need any more of the annual bloodletting and screaming contest for which Founders is best known. Another candidate has a manifesto entirely aimed at competing societies and doesn't mention Roses at all or have any points related to sports teams. Competing societies are only a small part of LUSU's over 250 societies and clubs, and given two candidates are viewing them as a core electorate, it's far too narrow a focus on a very crowded area. They actually say more about their own involvement with college sports teams than providing any manifesto points relative to the teams, so unless they're planning to join every team, there seems to be little on offer to them. The final candidate goes for the opposite position and offers nothing to societies in their manifesto, but also doesn't mention any plans for Roses either, in a rather sparse manifesto. They're focused on the allocation of funding and training facilities so soon after the implementation of the Sports Lancaster system. Sounds like they are ready to fight yesterday's battles. Perhaps the most exciting thing about this election is that two of the candidates come from dance societies, so if they tie, at least we can hopefully look forward to a dance-off rather than the usual toin-toss to decide the outcome. Please consider voting RON for LUSU Vice President Activities. There is another candidate in every election called RON. RON stands for Reopen Nominations. You don't have to vote for any of the candidates if you don't think they're good enough. Voting RON means reopening up the position for a by-election, and here is why you might want to do that for the role of Vice President Education. First of all, let's talk about democracy. Democracy means having the choice to vote for multiple candidates who offer different viewpoints and solutions to problems. There's only one candidate running for this position, and the inclusion of RON on the ballot is the only thing separating this election from that of North Korean Supreme Leader. But that isn't the candidate's fault. That's the fault of every other student for not registering as a candidate. So well done to the candidate for actually wanting the role and doing something about it. Their manifesto has some good points, but all the talk of fighting makes them sound more like Rocky than a skilled political negotiator, and some of their policies sound like they're taken from a Vice President Welfare and Community manifesto, so I hope they know which role they're campaigning for. Please consider voting Ron for Vice President Education.
Hi, I'm Polly Davis and I'm running for VP Welfare and Community. My manifesto has 4 main points which I'll outline quickly. First of all, I would like to see more support for marginalised student groups. This includes liberation groups, international students and student parents and carers. I feel like these groups are hugely underrepresented in LUSU and I'd like to do something to challenge this. Secondly, I'd like to see the creation of a more sustainable campus. Lancaster has the potential to be incredibly green and I would like to see green stuff put at the heart of the university and the union's ethos. Third, I'd like to make our union more accountable and accessible through the creation of a LUSU app, which will include things like activities, timetables, events, council agendas, and welfare signposting. Finally, I would like to fight the rising cost of living, both nationally and locally, by opposing government plans to cut education, as well as challenging university management on their own housing policies. Please vote Polly Davis #1 for Welfare and Community and Pollinate Campus. Thank you.
Hello, I'm David and I'm running to be your next VP Welfare and Community. I'm going to give you a quick snapshot of the policies I want to do for next year. So firstly, I'd like to focus on mental health, especially men's mental health, as suicide is the biggest killer of young men in the country and we've not done anything on that yet. Secondly, I'd like to do an employment fund for all students, so it would work in a way that your department or LUSU can apply to this fund and then you can be employed, so with open days and things like that. Thirdly, I'd like to sort out the car parking on tennis courts, as currently cars park in such a way that the middle one gets locked in. I just want some markings on the ground. And then a carpooling system, so if you come with your friend or things like that, you can get a cheaper permit and you're higher on the list to be able to get a permit. And then lastly, I'd like to sort out the bus passes, because currently if you lose your bus pass, you have to pay for the entire thing again, which is just unacceptable. I want to work with UCOM and FE colleges to make sure this is a thing. That's a quick snapshot of my policies. I hope that they've convinced you. Please vote me, David Whitlock, #1, VP Welfare and Community.
Hi there, I'm Lucy Clues. I'm running for the full-time officer position of Welfare and Community, and this is why you should vote for me. Key points from my campaign include confronting discrimination of any kind, encouraging self-care, improving the signposting to welfare services on campus, pushing the plans forward for a second wind turbine, and welcoming students into the local community by forming strong relationships with local community groups, whilst also collaborating with local police to make sure that you feel safe in your communities. Hopefully you'll appreciate that my campaign has been paper and therefore poster free, because that's the more environmentally friendly thing to do. Finally, experience I've got for the role includes working for Green Lancaster and being the current cross-campus officer for charities and president of LUSU Gives. Thank you for listening, thanks to Tom from SignSock for his interpretation, and please choose Clues.
There is another candidate in every election called Ron. Ron stands for Reopen Nominations. You don't have to vote for any of the candidates if you don't think they are good enough. Voting Ron means reopening up the position for a by-election. Here is why you might want to do that for the role of Vice President, Welfare and Community. The first candidate wants to stop students having to pay for a new bus pass if they lose theirs, saying they'll work with university councillors, local institutions like UCOM and further education colleges, but doesn't actually say anything about contacting the bus company. There is also a manifesto point for those who would prefer to drive to the university rather than get a bus, noting that the car parking system on campus isn't great. The one by the tennis court does not even have markings, and that they want to fix this and also make campus more accessible. However, there are no suggestions on how to do this, so this could be anything from lobbying for more buses to building a link road from the M6 straight onto campus, complete with its own services at KFC and Krispy Kreme donut stand. Another candidate wants to launch a LUSU app to contain information about events, council agendas, welfare booklets tailored to colleges, information about drugs and alcohol, and sporting calendars, as well as promoting democratic engagement. This will be great for the 20% or so of students whose phones with this it'll actually work, if it actually contains any up-to-date information, which is more than can be said for the LUSU website half the time. They also want to create a sustainable campus, so if elected we can look forward to more wooden buildings that leak just as much as Leica. The final candidates campaign isn't about them, it's about you. My agenda is to ensure that your voice is heard. I'm not so sure that they will still be saying that on Friday if students decide to elect another candidate. They want to confront environmental, sustainability and ethical issues, making it sound like they want to start fracking on campus, which I guess is the opposite of the intended meaning. Please consider voting Ron for Vice President, Welfare and Community.
Hello, my name is Sophie Tarif and I'm running for the position of Union Development. My main focus is on events, engagement and democracy and the commercial services. I hope to challenge the JCRs, LUSU and the Sugar House to differentiate the events happening on campus and provide it to students, so there are different things on offer for a wider range of students. I'd like to take Big Night Out on tour to a different city, because who wouldn't like to see 400 students bar crawling away? My main focus, however, is being able to provide students accessibility to FTOs and open spaces through different drop-in sessions, and working towards effective meetings with tangible outcomes, so that when motions are passed in different councils, students are able to understand the implications and reap the benefits. Thank you for listening to my 1 minute quick hust. If you have any questions or any ideas, please like my Facebook page and vote when it opens next Wednesday. Thank you.
My name's Nick Woods. I'm running for the VP of Union Development for Lancaster University Students' Union. One of the policies I'd like to introduce to the Sugar House is the Winning Teams Initiative. Teams that win their events on Wednesdays should be rewarded for their efforts. So I would offer them a prize of free entry or queue jump for that effort of winning their game. Another part that I'd like to talk about in my campaign is LUSU Living. Some of the accommodation that the union offers is not up to scratch. I'd like to reinvest some money to improve that accommodation for students. And finally, I'd like to talk about the Purple Card. Some students, when they go home from the UK, do not live in the Northwest, and I'd like to make sure that the benefit of the Purple Card is seen. So I would expand the programme by marketing to other areas geographically, such as the North East, the South, and even the Midlands, where I'm from personally. So please vote for me. Remember to vote orange, because orange is the new purple at the end of the day. But I'd like to represent students at Lancaster.
Hi, my name's James and I'm campaigning to be your next LUSU Vice President Union Development. A little bit about me. Last year I was File President and the year before a File Welfare Officer, and now I would really like to support students across campus in all colleges. My main points focus on accommodation, supporting the colleges so that they can put on great freshers and extra weeks, and looking at how we can support student democracy across campus and great socials in the Sugar House. For accommodation, I want to fight for a fairer settlement for all students. I want to get better events at the Sugar House with deals that you want, looking at what students really want to have in their venue. For democracy, I want to make sure that people feel that they can engage in both the LUSU process and in national politics by supporting voter registration. I feel that it's really important that we need to do this. So check out my manifesto online, like the Facebook page, and please vote for me as your #1 choice. Thank you very much for listening.
There is another candidate in every election called Ron. Ron stands for Reopen Nominations. You don't have to vote for any of the candidates if you don't think they are good enough. Voting Ron means reopening the position for a by-election. Here is why you might want to do that for the role of Vice President, Union Development. The first candidate wants to offer the opportunity to host the Sugar House for societies, which sounds suspiciously like the Sugar House takeover events that already happen, although the impromptu swimming takeover of the Sugar House just before Christmas didn't quite go too well. They also want to make the Sugar House the top nightclub attraction in Lancaster through reinvestment of high profits from the closure of competitors, which of course relies on high profits being generated. If there was so much profit available in running nightclubs, then perhaps so many competitors wouldn't be closing. Another candidate wants to ensure that students are able to engage with national and campus issues without saying anything about how they will increase engagement. Another manifesto point is to provide accommodation both on and off campus is a huge financial burden for students. As a union, we should be there to inform and to support students who run into difficulties with staff trained to help. We should also oppose an unaffordable rise in rents. Given that LUSU has already successfully negotiated a reduction in some standard rent prices this year and has its own housing company, this is not exactly a news headline. The final candidate wants to re-energise LUSU Shop and Central in order to re-evaluate the stock and encourage more up-to-date facilities without providing any details. Will we see self-checkout or robotic self-stackers in Central, or one of those pizza vending machines in LUSU Shop? Their plan to be engaging with students on their own terms is another empty statement unless they're going to build an entire new website and social media platform. Please consider voting Ron for Vice President Union Development.
Hi, my name's Joel Smith and I'm going for VP Campaigns Communications this year. I'm from Grisdale College, I play korfball and I'm part of Belrigg FM. I'm one of those students who hasn't really gotten involved in student politics before, but after complaining for the past 2 years, I thought it was finally time to put my hat in the ring and give something back to Lancaster Uni as a whole. Because I love the place and I just want to make it as good as it can be. I want to enact greener advertising so that we don't waste paper or student expense on postering the entire uni just for them to get torn down. I want to make sure that LUSU communicates with its societies and its members, because at the moment people aren't impressed with what's been going on. I want to make sure that the student media gets more involved with inter-college sports and societies, making sure that they are truly representative of the students that they're trying to work with. At the end of the day, I think that you should try and score a all in one and vote for me. And I promise that I will do my utmost to make LUSU more accountable, responsible and representative.
Hi, I'm Grace PV and I'm running to be your next VP Campaigns and Communications Officer. So here's some of my manifesto points. Firstly, sports. I want sports to be more publicised, and I think that can be done both by having Sport of the Week and then also having a digital timetable around campus telling people what sports are happening and whereabouts next coming up on campus. Then next of all, I feel like international students, there's over 30% of Lancaster University students are international, but the LUSU website is all in English with no translation function. So I want to introduce some kind of frequently asked questions page, which will be in every single language that we have students for, to kind of introduce people to LUSU. Then with regards to the underpass, I believe that the blank wall, there's so much potential there, and so I'd want to introduce maybe a projector to project some of the LUSU messages onto that blank wall, and then have some scan buckets within the underpass so people can pick up a copy of Scan and read it on their way home. And then finally, with regards to the spine, they're thinking about getting rid of the pillars and the pillar boards, so we need to think of a new way to communicate with the spine.
There is another candidate in every election called RON. RON stands for Reopen Nominations. You don't have to vote for any of the candidates if you don't think they're good enough. Voting RON means reopening up the position for a by-election. Here's why you might want to do this for the role of Vice President, Communications and Campaigns. The first candidate states that I believe that this is a role, a supportive role. It is to support the other FTOs in the campaigns which they wish to run, which is a wonderful way of avoiding writing any contentious manifesto points and just rely on the candidates for the other positions to attract all of the controversy. They also want to utilise the underpass. There is so much potential, they say, but provide no new ideas. Last time this was tried, the projectors were installed down there, but wouldn't work for more than 5 minutes before overheating, which is just about enough time to listen to this one hust, not to run a whole campaign. The second candidate wants to provide a platform for cohesive, constructive discussion on policies and initiatives, but makes no mention of the new NUS digital platform which LUSU is moving to, so is shutting the stable door after the whole herd of digital horses have bolted. Another point is to provide students with alternative methods of advertising to reduce paper consumption and reduce student expense, embracing technology for the students' benefit. There's no mention of costings or even if the technology exists to put manageable digital poster boards around campus, and students may well just poster over the digital ones with their own paper ones as they do currently. The final candidate wants to start working with NUS Digital to improve the LUSU website. But NUS Digital isn't implemented yet, so without the help of a psychic, they have no way of knowing how it's actually going to work. Their manifesto is also just a list of buzzwords with no actions on how to implement them. It's far more useful to those playing the LUSU elections drinking game than anybody actually looking for answers to problems, wider consultation, promotional campaigns, careers, collaborative work, union communication channels, etc, etc, etc. Please consider voting RON for Vice President, Communications and Campaigns.
Hi, I'm Ash and I'm running to be your next LUSU President. The reason I am running for President is because I want to make the Students' Union work for the students again. The role of President is there to help shape and guide LUSU, to support the FTOs and make sure they deliver on all of their promises they've made while they've been campaigning. There are 3 things I'm particularly passionate about. Firstly, I want to open up better lines of communications between societies and sports teams so the union can see when and where they actually need help. Secondly, I want to continue working with the university to reduce the cost of living on campus. And thirdly, to continue implementing change based on student feedback. The Students' Union shouldn't have its own political agenda. It should be there for the students and cater to their needs. If you vote for me, I will do my best to make sure every single interaction with the Students' Union is a positive one, and we work to the best of our ability to represent you. So that's why you should go for gold. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rhiannon and I'm running to be your next LUSU president. I'm a biomedical science student and spent my first year as president of the County College, the largest undergraduate college here at Lancaster University. Here are some of my manifesto points. I will lobby the university to introduce a 24-hour on-campus nurse service. I will lobby the university to adopt a zero food wastage policy. I will introduce a university-wide mentor scheme. I will offer the sports clubs and societies the opportunity to choose either increased funding or increased training space, with it being the priority being confirmed. I will fight to reduce the cost of on-campus accommodation, standardise taxi services and split bursaries over 2 terms. Only 6 out of 48 LUSU presidents have been self-defining women, and I'd like to take my sabbatical year to focus on gender inequality and combat it. Vote Rhiannon as number 1.
There is another candidate in every election called RON. RON stands for Reopen Nominations. You don't have to vote for any of the candidates if you don't think they are good enough. Voting RON means reopening up the position for a by-election. Here is why you might want to vote RON for the role of Union President. One candidate has submitted a 3-sentence manifesto and no picture of themselves, hardly worthy of a future president. You probably wouldn't even recognise them, even if they did go out campaigning. Never mind turn up to the hustings. Misquoting the motto of the French Revolution makes them sound like a confused baguette-eating socialist. Another candidate's manifesto has finally gained unique selling points with their pledge to be the 7th self-defining woman president of LUSU after the withdrawal of the only other self-defining woman from the election. Their scheme to allow societies, and not just sports, to opt for either more space or increased funding fundamentally misunderstands the complex requirements of societies and that space and funding requirements are intrinsically linked. It is also under the remit of the activities officer, and whoever gets elected to that role may not like the idea of using such a simplistic sledgehammer to crack such a complex nut. Another candidate pledges to maintain open lines of communications with societies and sports teams, which makes it sound like they want to sit behind a large desk with a number of red phones and hotlines to Moscow sat alongside lines to the rugby and netball teams. Although Mr. Putin may be easier to deal with than some of our sports teams at Sugar House on a Wednesday night, this is hardly an innovative solution to a well-known problem. They also plan to continue with events such as Speak Week to increase representation. Well, as part of Speak Week, there was an FTO question time, which a whole 4 students turned up to, meaning they were outnumbered by the officers, which sounds about as representative as a plan for imminent Syrian elections. The final candidate has actually pulled out of the election, but is still listed on the nominations board, so may still get elected, which will be a surprise for them and show how futile campaigning actually is. Please consider voting RON for your LUSU president.